Well, it was just, a talk with no substance, a man repeating what he said in February.
The speech was appalling, to say the least. If anything, it clearly indicates that it was not prepared by the president himself.
It was a very long and tiring election, and we were able to form a government in 2 weeks. I think that's somewhat of a record.
Thanks so much for joining us. I wasn't on the list as well. Spread the fire. This is a wonderful moment for our channel. The first time we get to speak to EFF President Mr. Julius Malema. Mr. Malema, thanks for joining us. What did you make of the speech tonight?
Well, it was just, a talk with no substance, a man repeating what he said in February. The difference is that now that confidence and the energy of February is gone. It's a wounded buffalo that is trying to survive, and everything else he says, he doesn't mean it. You can talk about beneficiation. He has been talking about beneficiation since he became the president of the ANC and government. We have not seen anything of that sort. You can talk about strengthening state-owned enterprises. They've collapsed under them. They create a crisis and come back to us and say we can fix it. And he says nothing on international relations because he knows that is a point of disagreement in this GNU. Once you go there, you are going to fight immediately, especially in relation to Palestine. They don't see eye to eye on those matters. He says he has created 2 million jobs. Where are those jobs? Because you can't say EPWP are jobs. Those are positions that are used for mobilization towards elections. After elections, they give people letters terminating those contractual jobs, and then they come and boast with those kind of issues here. This is going to fail. It will not work. You can see the happiest people in that room is the white people, is the DA, because it's the biggest beneficiary of this sellout coalition.
Very quickly, and to end, any thoughts on the Phala Phala matter, which you've been championing and speaking very forcefully about with this new coalition government?
The Phala Phala is going to come. The speaker responded to us today saying the sixth government has dealt with Phala Phala. There is nothing like that. If any matter that is dealt with by the previous parliament, if it's not properly concluded, it can be revived. When the EFF came into this parliament, there was a Nkandla matter which was resolved by the previous parliament. We raised the matter and resolved it within the term of the new parliament. Phala Phala will never go away because he so wishes that it will go away. He's talking about fighting crime. He's talking about combating money laundering and all types of crimes in South Africa. At the center of money laundering is Phala Phala. As long as Phala Phala is not being attended to demonstrate our commitment to anti-money laundering state, other countries will never take us serious because there is a matter which is clear and open before all institutions and before parliament, yet nothing has been done about those matters.
Mr. Malema, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Ayeye. I'm here with Rise Mzansi's Makashule Ghana. Mr. Ghana, thanks for joining us. What were your thoughts on tonight's speech?
So the priorities are correct. I want to see, for instance, the focus on municipalities, assisting municipalities, because it's no help to say that you want to place municipalities under administration. What you need to do is to ensure that capable people are appointed in municipalities, and that's something that can be done from tomorrow. It's not something that waits for the medium-term budget that's going to be presented in October. What we want to see as Rise Mzansi is these priorities must feature in the medium-term budget that's going to be announced in October. And we are going to hold the ministers, the president accountable. And also in achieving these priorities, we also encourage in terms of focus on infrastructure. Water infrastructure is key, broadband infrastructure is key. So it's encouraging, but you can say so many things, but doing it's another thing. But we are going to assist the government from oversight side to ensure that we achieve this. Because at the end of the day, all South Africans want to live in a safe South Africa, want to be prosperous, want to go to work, want to pay less for transport to get to work. So this is something that we are going to, the yardstick we are going to use to measure this government.
Well, we wish you all the best as you enter these walls of Parliament once again.
Thank you very much.
I'm here with the leader of Action SA, Mr. Herman Mashaba. Mr. Mashaba, what did you make of the speech this evening?
Well, I think I really listened and I really actually battled to really get to the grasp of what the president needed to really say in terms of addressing the challenges facing our nation. I think his speech was really more to do in trying to sell this dream of government of national unity than actually addressing the issues facing our nation. As you are aware, Caesar, we are a nation with the highest unemployment rate in the world. Men created unemployment in this country is not really accidental. It's something that was created by this 30 years of mismanagement and corruption. And right now, when you have this grand coalition of these parties with divergent policies and values, I'm not really sure how they're going to address this. That's what we expected the president to deal with. We have a massive challenge of undocumented foreigners, millions of them. And I thought we'll hear the president actually saying, look, at South Africa, we are going to deal with these matters head on. We cannot allow a situation where our businesses in our communities taken over by people who don't know in the first place how they came into this country, how they brought money into our country, how they are taking it out. These are issues that I believe needs to address. We have, 86 people being murdered in this country. The world has never seen a nation murdering each other than what we are seeing here. And these are issues that I believe personally that we're missing out of the president's address. The president focus on promotion and selling this dream of government of national unity, which is just a pipe dream. We know it's a grand coalition. There's nothing like a government of national unity that was formed after the elections.
Just to conclude, why did you take the decision to go into opposition and be a voice from outside the government, and what was the thinking behind that?
Well, how do I work with political parties with such divergent values and policies? You take the ANC on one hand, and you take the DA on the other. With the ANC's mismanagement and corruption, I don't really want to really get myself as action as we get ourselves involved with it. On the other hand, I have personal lived experience of working with the ANC. I left my business, wanted to work with the DA to address the inequality in this country, and DA flatly refused, where they're not interested in redressing and making sure that we can uplift the poor black people, make them part of our economy, part of the ecosystem of our nation. So I'm not really sure how Cyril Ramaphosa is going to address this issue, because he's going to find resistance from the DA to deal with inequality in a way that there's a state intervention, because the inequality in our country is not going to be addressed by us going to church or having discussion and conferences and dialogue. We know what created black people to really be poor. It is because of many years of colonialism, of apartheid, 30 years of ANC mismanagement. So we need serious interventions, but must be interventions that are going to bring real empowerment to ordinary South Africans, not just to the selected and politically connected.
Mr. Mashaba, thanks so much for joining us on SMWX.
Thank you so much.
Spread the fire. We're here with Mr. Malusi Gigaba after the address of the President at the opening of Parliament. Mr. Gigaba, thank you very much for joining us. I wonder what your reactions are to the speech this evening.
Look, I think the President highlighted the most topical issue, which is jobs, economic growth through redistribution, because that is what is most pertinent in South Africa at the moment. I think it was good that he spoke of ensuring that our macroeconomic policy focuses on promoting growth and development and job creation, because if we don't do that, we will continue to face the structural weaknesses of this economy, where it grows without creating employment. And so it's going to be important that what he said here today is put to action. I was also glad that he indicated that the National Health Insurance Program is going to go ahead, and that there will be a great focus on infrastructure rollout. I would like a reassurance that the state is going to play an important part in that infrastructure rollout, so that infrastructure development in the country doesn't become only the program of the private sector, where we end up with infrastructure that has been privatized, because the experience on the African continent and in other developing countries where infrastructure was privatized has not been good in terms of growth, in terms of employment, as well as in terms of creating the capabilities of the state. Because in a developing country such as ours, we still see the state as an important player in the economy.
Mr. Kekaba, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Spread the fire. I'm here with Nabayomzi Kwangwa of the United Democratic Movement. Mr. Kwangwa, firstly, just how are you doing following your traumatic experience recently with the virtual near abduction?
Yes, no, it was, thanks for asking. We're taking it one day at a time. Some days are naturally more difficult than others, but I'm trying to get professional help to deal with this situation so that we can be able to move on from it.
Was really sorry to hear about it and glad to hear that you're okay.
No, thank you ever so much, Mhlekas.
Let's get on to less important matters like the president's speech. What did you make of it? What are your thoughts and strengths and weaknesses?
Well, it was difficult to assess because the speech, I had expected that the president was going to give a progress report or an account of the work done in the last 5 years, because he was the president of South Africa in the last 5 years. And for him then to be able to highlight, after having acknowledged all the challenges, some of the successes and the progress achieved, to outline, even if in broad terms, a clear program of action for the next 5 years. I didn't get that. What I got out of the speech for me is that it was a statement of intent, which repeated a lot of the things which were said in the past, without accounting for some of the failures, because inclusive growth, they have not been able to achieve any economic growth. They have not been able to reindustrialize the South African economy for the past however many years, 15 if you like. Even with the issue of energy and the just transition process, I don't think it's coordinated enough, even though there are some good initiatives around that. I did not walk away from the speech confident that we have a plan to be able to reignite the economic growth in the country, to deal with issues of poverty, inequality and unemployment and so on. Perhaps once the medium-term plan or development plan that he was talking about, it begins to actually pan out and that we get more details, we'll have a better understanding of how the GNU intends to tackle the challenges that face South Africa, especially the youth and the unemployed.
Mr. Kwangwa, thank you so much for joining us and we look forward to your work in this new parliament.
Thank you kindly.
Nazeer Tata. Here with Mark John Burke of the DA, a new MP and someone who I'm very excited for in this new parliament because I've known him for some time in our university days. Mark, how did you feel about the speech and what did you make of it?
I was very encouraged by the speech. I think there are a lot of areas of policy convergence. I myself have been allocated to appropriations and I'm quite excited about a responsible way of looking at our budget. I think one of our big concerns is our reliance on debt funding for our budget. And for us, if we're spending a quarter of our fiscal allocation on servicing our debt, and that number is going up year on year, that's a big concern. And so to see an indication that we'll focus on consolidating is good for us.
What's it been like to be a new MP and to come into this crazy time in South African politics, making your maiden appearances?
Yep, Bill Clinton once said that politics is drinking from a fire hose. And I've mentioned to people in the past week or two that I'm at least getting a sip or two in. But it is very much learning on the go, navigating a new arena. I am enjoying having colleagues that are all committed to making the country better. And I say colleagues in a broad sense. I've been able to engage with people within my own party, but also across the aisle, and that excites me.
Good to see people like you in this august house, and all the best for your term.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Aye. Here with Dr. Corne Mulder, a veteran of SMWX. Dr. Mulder, how are you? Welcome back. And what did you make of the speech tonight?
Yes, thank you very much. No, technically the president said a lot of things that one could say are the right things. But the problem is, those things are not new. They were said in the last year, the previous year, etc., etc. The only thing that basically changed is that we now have got a government of national unity. So the first question would be, why was it necessary for the ANC first to lose power if they want to implement these things? But I heard a strong commitment from the president to the government of national unity. That's positive. But only at the end, he said what I thought was really important. The political parties themselves and the civil service and the state will not succeed in implementing these plans and these ideas. And then he came to the national dialogue. I think that's very important. At the national dialogue, we need to get all South Africans involved from across all sectors of society, business, civil society, etc. Because the challenge is going to be, it's one thing to announce these things, but they depend on policy. And I think there is no clarity at this stage in terms of real policy, and those decisions will have to be taken at the national dialogue. So let's see how that plays out.
In those areas where there is disagreement, will we see a robust parliament and opposition even from parties within the GNU?
Yes, absolutely. I think what's going to happen is a fascinating thing now. Even parties, everybody is going to do something of everything. Someone's going to be in government, but parties in government are also going to play an opposition role, and vice versa, because we are not in the same party. We do not necessarily agree on each and everything. There is a broad commitment, but the devil is in the detail. And if we can find each other in terms of policy, we may make a success of this. If we cannot do that, then, and there are many challenges also to the government of national unity from within and from without, we all know that, but time will tell.
Dr. Mulder, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you very much. That was a pleasure.
All the best. Really glad to be joined by the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon Schreiber. Thanks so much for joining us. And what did you make of the speech tonight?
I think it was very encouraging to hear the President placing economic growth at the apex of what the Government of National Unity needs to achieve. I think our economy has been stagnant for too long, and the only way we're going to create jobs is if we start by growing the economy. I think also linked to that is the very clear endorsement for the agenda at Home Affairs to make sure that in sectors where we don't currently have the skills available, we draw on the best of the world by reforming our visa system, starting by clearing the backlog that we're still dealing with, to make sure we can get skills, investment and tourism into South Africa. So I'm excited about that because I've been saying all along, we need to reposition Home Affairs as an economic enabler. It's got multiple important functions, but we shouldn't neglect its role as a key economic enabler. In fact, the National Treasury tells us that behind load shedding, this issue of getting skilled people in through visa reform is the second most impactful thing we can do to grow the economy. So I think that that is very welcome, and from our side, that's what we will be driving.
Nice to see someone with a PhD and a ministry. How's your academic life intersected with your public life?
Interesting question. I actually would point more to the research work I did after my PhD as being very relevant, because that gave me the opportunity. I was at Princeton University in the US to actually travel throughout Africa and Asia, looking at developing countries that had managed to build or rebuild government institutions that had either been destroyed by wars or conflict or other kind of issues. And I think that gives you a very useful lens to look at, specifically in a place like Home Affairs. If you think about the scale of the problem, it can be overwhelming. But one of the things you learn when you do that kind of research, interviewing people on the ground, reformers themselves, is the importance of prioritizing and getting very clear priorities from an early stage, and then making sure you don't actually get swamped by the scale of the problem. Always draw back to what your key priorities are. And these are things in South Africa that are not a secret or rocket science. It's long queues at Home Affairs. It is the IT system issues that we have. It is the visa backlog and making sure we attract skills. It is investing more in our border management to make sure that we actually don't have people breaking the law. These are the vital things, the key priorities. And I think having an understanding of how important it is to be clear about your priorities is very helpful.
Dr. Schreiber, thanks so much for joining us on SMWX.
Thanks. Nice to be with you.
This interview won't be like our last one.
Nothing can be worse than the last one between the two of us.
It's great to see you rising to a ministry. What did you make of the speech tonight?
I think the speech was brilliant. It was truthful. It was factual. And it was pragmatic. You know, the president admitted what is wrong, like, for instance, the local government, and how is he going to fix it. So I think the GNU is going to change South Africa. And that's what we're going to do.
And in terms of your ministry, how are you feeling? You've brought a new energy, a new way of communicating to the public on social media. What's behind that strategy?
You know, this ministry that I have now was always known as the condolences and congratulations ministries. I don't want that. Here we are not going to go to artists when they've died. We're going to contribute towards their living. And I'm going to bring life to the ministry, as I've already done. And this is only the beginning. We are going to change things for the country and for the better.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I wasn't on the list as well.
Excuse me?
Here with ANC DSG Nomvula Mokonyane. What did you make of the speech this evening?
Well, the speech has brought in all the ideas that came out of the statement of intent. and also in line with the broader part of our own elections manifesto. And we do believe that because it is a speech that had inputs from so many parties that were voted by South Africans, it will help us to change the quality of life, to grow the economy, and most importantly, to contribute towards poverty alleviation and food security.
Are you satisfied with the way the GNU is cohering? Do you feel that you're finding a way of working together despite the differences?
It's actually gelling so well. It has not been an easy journey, Sizwe, from the time when we were consulting at the Results Center about consideration of talking to each other up to here. I think it is a journey that we need to protect, and it is a journey that we need to make sure that it even reaches the lowest of the other spheres of government, including local government.
Thanks so much for joining us on SMWX. I'm here with an SMWX legend, Mr. Musi Maimane, of course, the leader of BOSA, and now the chairperson of the Committee on Appropriations, I believe.
Yes.
What did you make of the speech this evening?
Look, there's very little to disagree on in the speech, right? Because all of us want those things. We want bridges, we want schools, we want jobs, we want all of that. That's not new. I've heard all of that. What I thought needed to, and to defer it to the next Lekgotla, is not good enough. It needed to say, what's the lodestar? What's the thing that when you look after 5 years, you can say, that's what we achieved. And I draw parallels with a time that actually South Africa did extraordinarily well. 2010. The lodestar was the World Cup. What did it do? We spent more on policing because we realized we had a priority to keep everyone safe. We built infrastructure, so the allocations in the budget was increased. We in fact ensured over that year that the work of government and the private sector was integrated. And we had 3.4% GDP growth, 1 year. What is about this year? I still don't know. I hear 10 or 15 priorities, which means actually all of them have an equal weighting. We'll only spend 2% on infrastructure because that's what's been allocated in the midterm budget framework. The National Development Plan, when you look at it, how it translates into annual performance plan, those are only 43% and in some instances 25%. So my worry is that tonight we heard good things. I'm not sure we have an implementation plan, and I'm not sure that having a dialogue and having more lekgotlas is going to solve for that. So we've solved for the politics in the GNU. Now let's deal with the delivery.
Will Liverpool or the GNU have a better season this season?
I think Liverpool are going to have a better season. At least we know our sole goal is to win the league.
Yeah, we have one priority.
We have one priority. That's got to be the mantra.
Thank you so much for joining us, brother.
Always my privilege to be on this my favorite podcast. This will become my get me a shirt and I'll wear it proudly.
Yeah. You asked for some SMWX merch and we have delivered. I know you're always looking for ways to help support and grow this channel. So why don't you buy yourself an SMWX hoodie? Super comfy, super warm, and you can represent SMWX. You can check the link down below for how to buy your SMWX hoodie and help build and grow this channel so we can bring you more interviews, more analysis, and more educational insights. Now let's get back to it. I'm here with the leader of the opposition and the parliamentary leader of the MK party, none other than Dr. John Hlophe. Dr. Hlophe, thanks for joining us, and I wonder what you made of tonight's speech.
Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. This speech was appalling, to say the least. If anything, it clearly indicates that it was not prepared by the president himself. And it was very clear as he was addressing us, there were lots of white South Africans, members of the DA, who were applauding for him. That's not his speech. Maybe he will deliver his speech one day.
Very little on foreign policy in the speech, which was notable to me.
Understandable. He can't talk about Israel because he has decided to go to bed with the DA, notwithstanding its manifest racist policies. So it doesn't come as a surprise to me at all.
And
by the same token, it doesn't surprise us as the MK party why the president did not address the issue of land. The struggle all along has been about the return of land to the rightful owners.
In terms of the judiciary, you made a powerful speech about the impact of budget cuts on the rule of law, particularly in lower courts, but in other courts as well. Talk to us about just the difficulty of administering justice and your interventions in terms of the court system and justice in South Africa.
Well, with this huge budget cut, I think the budget, if my memory serves me well, was reduced by something in the region of 13%, which is huge. Now, that's going to impact on service delivery. We know because there is a huge backlog in the courts, it can only make matters worse. One would have thought the president and his cabinet were going to act responsibly and put a lot of resources in the courts, in infrastructure and so on. Alas, what has happened? We have this blue lights brigade. It's a fashion. Everybody's excited about it. We in the Progressive Forum, which we launched this morning, consisting of the MK Party, the EFF, ATM, AUT, and the NCC. It's 5 parties. We are vehemently opposed to what is going on. We have formed a progressive forum to strengthen our opposition capacity outside of the GNU. We said all along as the MK Party, we will have nothing to do with the government of Cyril Ramaphosa, the ANC that is led by Cyril Ramaphosa, and we stand by that.
And just finally, Dr. Hlophe, you're in an interesting position having served in the judiciary and now the legislature. How will you bring your legal insight into parliamentary strategy?
Don't remind me that I was once a judge. This country is not interested in my judicial skills, right? So I was fired, but I can live with that. Well, I suppose once you have qualifications in law, you would remain a lawyer for the rest of your life. I am in a position now to use my judicial skills in Parliament, but make no mistake, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a serious politician. I'm a serious-minded politician, not this clown you're listening to earlier.
No doubt about that. Dr. Hlophe, thanks so much for joining us on SMWX.
Well.
I'm here with newly minted DA spokesperson Karabo Gagahu. Karabo, thank you so much for joining us, and I wonder what you make of this evening's speech.
Thank you, Caesar, and hi, tutors. So here's what's important for us. As the DA, we've always been clear that if we're going to go anywhere as a nation, we need to have a growing economy, we need to create jobs, we want to have a public service and administration that is competent, that is not marred by political interferences. So these are things that we heard the President speak about today, and we welcome. We also are very clear that our formation of the GNU, or our participation in the GNU, was focused on ensuring that we're able to have as many DA policies as possible that can speak to tangibly changing the lives of South Africa. And we've heard that the President has aligned himself accordingly, right? Because it is important to ensure that when we do represent South Africans, we don't just do so because we're a political party, but we have people who sit on the table, who have the means and the capability to actually not only just bring about solutions, but action them. And that's why we want to say to South Africans that while we welcome the President's address today, we're also very critical of the fact that the speech is as beautiful as it is, but without any action, it means nothing. That's why our DA ministers and deputy ministers have obviously rolled up their sleeves and are hitting the ground running to ensure that we do, at the end of these 5 years, find a track record that finds them as the beneficiaries of a successful story.
Interesting listening to your party leader's speech a few days ago, where it seems that you're also going to play something of an opposition role where necessary, and so you're going to challenge where you need to challenge and not simply follow the government line.
Yeah, sure, certainly, because we wouldn't be the DA otherwise, right? We've also been clear that our participation in the GNU does not mean that we now are a marshmallow Mickey Mouse party that is happy to go lucky anywhere. We are very clear. We, in action, need to make sure that we have the best outputs. But in Parliament, we have to have a very robust opposition to whatever needs to be opposed. So our participation in debates and committees, in holding the executive accountable, including our own ministers and deputy ministers, is a role that we take very seriously. We also are very interested in making sure that we tighten the nuts and bolts around the kind of legislation that is put on the table, the kind of reform of any constitutional agenda, if there is a need, that is put into the table. So we're also very clear that we're not in government for the mere formality of it, or because it's cute to suddenly have a DA, John Steenhuisen, minister. But we are there because we fundamentally believe in the principle of a diverse representation. We fundamentally believe in building South Africa, and we cannot build from the outside. We can only build from within. Where we need to oppose certain things as a matter of fundamental disagreement, we will, but we'll do so constructively, obviously, because a lot is at stake here. The last thing South Africans need is destruction. The last thing South Africans need is a coalition of people who actually are hot ears and able to get things going, which is part of why we did not want to have a doomsday coalition to begin with, because life would have been completely different if we had the ANC, EFF and MK all together. Now imagine having a political party filled of people who played a critical role in destroying South Africa during the 9 wasted years of Jacob Zuma's administration. People who have been impeached from the judicial service, who have brought the whole judicial arm of state into disrepute, together with people who are implicated in corruption that has left poor people in Limpopo destitute via the VBS scandal, right? So all of these people together in one house will not definitely benefit South Africa under any circumstance. That's why we're very proud to be part of the JNU, and are very proud that we're able to lock them out of the doors of power, that we're able to tighten the cookie jar and make sure that they don't have their fingers there. And we're happy, and we look forward to how 5 years down the line, South Africa will be a better day.
Thanks so much for joining us, and all the best in your new role.
Thank you very much.
I'm here with Vendor Boy Poet, who had a sterling performance at the opening of Parliament. What's it like to be able to open Parliament and be the first person to really open this important event?
For me, I felt so much great. It was something that I've been waiting for, and I was so grateful to be given such a great opportunity that the whole South Africa were watching me doing my praise singing. Yeah, I felt good. I felt, welcomed.
What do you think the praise singing at the beginning of Parliament actually means for the nation?
It's very much important because we are the social commentator who takes the views and the inspiration of people where we need to concise and precise in a poetic phrases and to communicate them across. Our poem are very defined, and it got a lot of spiritual emotions, and it can connect with people. It can connect with different religions, different beliefs, and also different kind of people. The race and everything in one as praise singer. Because remember, a praise singer is somebody who understands the spirit that is hovering around, who can connect people into one and make peace. Yes.
Well done today, and thanks for joining us on SMWX.
Thank you so much.
Da. I'm here with another SMWX legend, Mr. Vuyelwethu Zungula of the ATM. What did you make of the speech tonight, sir?
He continued making the same promises he's been making since 2018. All of his themes that he's been talking about, your social compacts, your inclusive growth, your growing the economy, those were things that he has been speaking about since 2018, where there needs to be proper interrogation, whether from 2018 up until now, has those speeches yielded any positive returns for the country when it comes to creating jobs, reducing unemployment, reducing poverty? And the answer is a definite no. So it becomes difficult to have any sense of hope if you are going to be listening to the same promise that has been made since 2018. Another factor that people need to really be exposed to when it comes to Mr. Ramaphosa, every SONA, he will come with a big thing that he's going to talk about that will get people excited. 1 year it was the bullet train, in another year it was smart city. Today he spoke about the question of building schools, building roads, talking infrastructure projects, which in our view it is not new in the sense of the other promises he might have made in the past.
The Phala Phala matter is obviously something you focused a lot on. You're challenging the Public Protector's report. Any updates on that? Because it's a crucial case in the politics of our country and this new coalition.
We signed a replying affidavit this week. We are hoping that in the next 1 or 2 weeks we are going to have a date where the matter is going to be ventilated in court. And we do want to, remind the citizens that the Public Protector report is being taken on review. The other report, I think it was by the Reserve Bank. I think the EFF also took it on judicial review. The only report that has not been contested wherever, it is the report done by the former Chief Justice that had a recommendation that Mr. Ramaphosa had may have violated the constitution. So it is in that basis that that report remains a binding document, a valid document, which we as the 7th Parliament needs to further interrogate in light of Section 42(3) of the constitution that mandates the Parliament to truly scrutinize the actions of the executive, which it is something that has never been done. I know other people are going to say, but Pala is dead and buried because public protector this and that, the NPA and all of those institutions. But the reality, the constitution mandates Parliament to oversee the president. It does not mandate those institutions. Those institutions work on a case-by-case basis. And unfortunately, it is institutions that are appointed by him. So it is in that context we as the ATM think that Parliament has failed, the 6th Parliament failed in its mandate by not scrutinizing. However, it is up to the 7th Parliament to keep on pushing the matter so that we create a culture of accountability, so that even if whoever becomes the president after Mr. Ramaphosa knows that no matter how much political support they enjoy, they'll be held accountable.
Well, Hlekazi, all the best for your duties in scrutinizing and overseeing in this new term.
Thank you so much.
I'm here with the leader of the Democratic Alliance and, of course, the new Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen. John, thanks so much for joining us. And I wonder how you're feeling about the GNU and how things have come together after what was a very long and, I'm sure, tiring election.
Yeah, it was a very long and tiring election, and we were able to form a government in 2 weeks. I think that's somewhat of a record if you look at how long it's taken the Dutch and takes the Germans, etc. So I think we've been able to find each other. It was some argy-bargy, as it's natural in these processes.
Yeah.
But I think things are starting to settle down, and certainly with the medium-term development plan at the Cabinet Hlophe last week, starting to understand how we're going to develop and roll out a program for government. I think things are starting to move in the right direction.
And what was that Cabinet Hlophe like, the first time that all the parties came together and really focused on a single vision?
Yeah, it was quite strange. Usually I'm used to being in an opposition role, and obviously you're there, and I thought it was very constructive, very collegial. I think there was a genuine listening to each other's points of view. There was commitments to evidence-based research and evidence-based policy making, a commitment to consensus and finding each other. And as you know, there are issues that not all of the parties agree on in the GNU, and NHI is one of them. The President spoke about that this evening, and we want to see if we can find a compromise around that.
Yeah.
But certainly I think we're going to have to make the GNU work, because it is going to be the new politics for the country. I don't think in my lifetime there will be another national majority government. I think that you're going to see coalitions formed after every local and national government going forward election. And I think that we've got to learn how we can make these work in a constructive way that puts the people first and puts the party politics second.
And just finally, I was interested in your speech recently where you said the DA will also play something of an opposition role while you're in the GNU. Talk us through the importance of also keeping the executive accountable despite being in the coalition.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very important that we have a parliament that is robust and unafraid to hold the executive accountable. And I've told my MPs in the DA that they're to hold DA ministers as accountable as they would hold ANC ministers. I think that a strong parliament that is robust and holds its executive accountable is an excellent way to improve the quality of the executive. If you know you're going to be into the House and when you're facing tough questions, it forces you to be on top of your brief and to actually get to grips with the issues in your department. And so I'm looking forward to a robust parliament that holds us accountable as a government, because I think that we will improve each other by that tension between the executive and the legislature. And I think that we can look at building a parliament again that has got real teeth. And that's why it's important that we are represented in both the presiding officers but also chairs of some of the portfolio committees. Judge Zondo in his report said that committees should be chaired by different parties, and I think we're starting to see that taking place. So I hope to see a rebuilding of Parliament, not only in terms of the physical bricks and mortar, but a rebuilding of what a Parliament actually should be in a democracy, holding the executive accountable.
Minister Steenhuisen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Nice.
I'm here with Mr. Rashid Gutta of the Sun Party. What did you make of the speech tonight?
I think it was much of the same, but the fact that we have this GNU, it gives us a lot of optimism that there's a diversified range of people. The President spoke of many things, but it's now about the implementation. That's something that the government has been lacking to do. They've been having the right policies. They talk of the NDP plan, which was since 2012. So we're hoping that beneficiation that he spoke about, that's going to create the necessary jobs. Having been in business myself and seen how other countries have progressed, we seriously need to implement this change. And government needs structural reform in terms of policy change. So it's no use saying we want to start manufacturing, but our raw materials are controlled by monopoly industries. Big business controls everything in this country. So we need to start reforming that. As well as the labor policy, it's not conducive. Employees are not getting are getting the raw end of the deal. So if we can get that right, then we can solve the problem of unemployment and inequality. If you restructure the wages of the employees. But in general, I think that there's a lot of confidence coming out of this. This 2024 is like the 1994 we had.
Mr. Gutta, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Fam, I just wanted to interrupt this episode to let you know the 4 ways you can help SMWX. Way number 1, you can invite me to speak at your institution or company. Way number 2, you can advertise on this channel. Way number 3, you can become a member of this channel. The link to the membership is down below. And number 4, you can buy merch, that's books or hoodies. Now let's get back to the episode. All our contact details are in the description box below. I'm here with the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs and, of course, the leader of the IFP. Baba, thank you so much. It's lovely to have you back on SMWX. And what did you make of tonight's speech?
Thank you very much, Dr. Sizwe. The address by the President was spot on. It was an outcome of the Cabinet Lekgotla, where the 10 political parties in the GNU made a commitment that we need to make the 7th administration government work for 5 years, because we need to give hope to our people that the government is going to be stable. But we need to take down that stability, filter it down to the local government sphere where people live. As a minister of COGTA, it was very appropriate for me, not necessarily as a leader of the IFP, and I welcome the way the President spent time driving the message across that we need to pull together all of us to make municipalities stable. Because once municipalities are stable, there will be service delivery. There will be a conducive environment for investment to come to our country, make the economy grow, make services go to our people. People will have a reason to pay for ESCOM, to pay for water, to pay the rates if the infrastructure is maintained. The President very soon will have to appoint the champions of the district development model who will be championing support, especially to the dysfunctional municipalities. The good news, the number has dropped dramatically from what it was in 2023. In 2024, those municipalities who remain dysfunctional, we will have to provide support at a political level, at an administrative level, at a technical level, the expert in terms of turning around the finances of these municipalities. The 7th administration must be a turning point in the local government sphere in our country, which will open doors for maximum service delivery, stable local government sphere, which will ensure that services are given to our people.
Minister Hlabisa, just to round off, what do you think can be done from the national level to filter down to the municipal level? Of course, there are different spheres. And how do you see your role in COGTA as central to the communication between national and municipal levels?
The appointment of the champions of the district development model will be key, because these will be members of the National Assembly that will be communicating one message across the 257 municipalities in South Africa, and will be able to give feedback to one center, take the program after feedback same time throughout the country. That will be very key, because a minister alone cannot be all around at the same time, but working as a team, we will be able to turn things around, ensuring that maximum resources are being deployed to municipalities. The funding model, I was so happy because this has been said over and over again. Municipalities in deep rural areas have a challenge. They don't have the capacity to collect revenue because there are no rates in other municipalities that form a base of the revenue for the municipality. So now the funding model must address that issue. And when it comes to performance, the municipalities in deep rural areas are unable to attract sufficiently qualified people, not because they are dysfunctional. A person, when he wants to go and work in a municipality, considers, where are my kids going to be schooling? Where am I going to be living? The standard of living that I'm leading in an urban area, how is it going to be if I go down there? So now, there should be a way of ensuring that municipalities in deep rural areas, even the remuneration given to, in fact, the salaries given to the employees must compensate people working in the deep rural areas as an attraction of every skill, not to be reluctant to go to deep rural areas. It's a combination of things that must be done to make the environment conducive for municipalities in deep rural areas to attract every skill. And of course, lastly, the funding model. You should not apply the same method you use in an urban area, because municipalities in urban area have an opportunity to collect rates, which is not the case in the rural area. So now there must be a new model in terms of dealing with the funding of our municipalities throughout the country, and also giving maximum support and timelines to ensure that you turn things around.
Well, Minister Sabisa, we thank you so much and all the best with your important work.
Thank you very much, Sizwe.
I'm here with ANC MP Imran Subrati. Thank you very much for joining us. And what did you make of the speech this evening?
It was a profound experience. I think it was very symbolic, today being the International Mandela Day. It was profound to see, I think, the realization of the vision of Utata Madiba, seeing representatives of different opposition parties coming together and clapping for their president when he announced certain measures that they could connect with. You know, what was very, very touching to me, we said we need to increase agriculture, and he found the agricultural minister and his party supporting, and I saw ministers of opposition parties saying, our president, my president. So I think that was profound. That was the spirit of Utata Madiba being realized tonight. Clearly, our president delivered a very pragmatic, a very realistic speech. He talked about issues that concerns our people, and more so he provided solutions to it. For example, he spoke about increasing economy, but he also said we need to start deregulating, reduce the regulation, reduce the red tape so businesses can flourish. He also spoke about local municipalities and building municipalities, tackling the problems and getting involved. So I thought it was very well balanced, and I think most importantly, he's drawn from the strength of the members of the GNU and he's put together a formidable plan.
Imran Subrati, thank you so much for joining us, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam and jazakallah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Aye. I'm here with new ANC MP Fasiha Hassan. It's great to see you, and congratulations on being in Parliament. What did you make of the speech tonight?
Thank you. Look, I thought it was very inspiring, and I think it hit the right notes. In the past, we've seen the president, and we understand why, going into a level of detail. And I think today what we actually needed is what we got. We needed to know that the future is bright, that we can turn the situation around, that we can come to a moment of economic prosperity again, and more importantly, that you're going to see politicians and elected representatives be mature and rise above some of those difficulties, ultimately, so that the millions of South Africans who voted us into a mixed masala actually can come out on the other side with a positive.
Absolutely. And what was it like making your maiden speech recently in the committee setting?
It is actually very overwhelming. I've come from the legislature, so I'm not completely unfamiliar, but let me tell you, it was still, your hands shake, you triple think your words. But standing there, I think I really was actually reminded of my Fees Must Fall days, of what drove us to actually get involved in activism and what drove us effectively, yes, to the streets, which I threaten to go to if things don't quite go well for young people, but effectively of what brought us here. And in that same energy and fight, we want to bring it to the halls of Parliament as well.
I'm so glad to see you in Parliament, and all the best for this term.
Thank you. And let's have further discussions, right? We have a lot more young MPs now across political parties. That doesn't necessarily equal change immediately. And it doesn't necessarily equal progressive politics. So we need to find ways in which we support each other as a youth caucus that is multi-party, but ultimately one in which we as a generation take these issues forward. Because if we don't, Sizwe, we'll be sitting here 10 years from now having the same conversations. And frankly speaking, we can't allow that.
Indeed. All the best for the term ahead.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey fam, I hope you enjoyed those interviews. Really fascinating to hear from a wide spectrum of political voices as we dissect the president's speech tonight. And please tell me down below in the comments, what do you think? We spoke to John Steenhuisen, we spoke to Julius Malema, we spoke to Dr. John Hlophe, and that's really what we're trying to do on this channel, bring you many different views from many different perspectives, not force you to think one thing, let people speak, and we know that you're smart enough to make up your mind about what they say. And I hope tonight, which was a really special night for the channel as we, spoke to so many important people, has filled you with confidence that this channel is right here for you, for your voice, and that we're going from strength to strength. Like, share, subscribe. Help us get to 200,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and keep it locked on SMWX. Aye. I'd also like to thank two companies that are part of this SMWX community who have really helped us on this Cape Town trip to bring you all the content we're going to bring you. The first company is Black Brick. They have accommodated the SMWX team and also given you this wonderful venue from which we're going to shoot some content when we're not at Parliament. So I'd really like to thank the people at Black Brick in Cape Town, but they're also in multiple places in South Africa. If you're ever looking for excellent accommodation, make sure you check out Black Brick. And I'd also like to thank the people at Lula who are helping to transport the SMWX crew as we bring you this coverage. Lula's a company that takes particularly crews and companies and workers, whether you're going to a festival or you have an off-site event where you're transporting lots of people. Lula gets you from A to B in a really seamless way. And I want to give a big shout out to Lula. Thank you for watching this channel. Thank you for continuing to build and grow this channel into an important, independent digital force in South African politics. And I think after this government is formed, we might just be that crucial counterweight, that crucial critical voice that our country very much needs. See you in the comments. Aye.